Hi guys, it's Emily, and today I'm here to bring you another Recent Reads video. So throughout this entire pandemic, my reading has been going, the same rate as normal, and then in July it has just dropped off. It's July 16th today, and I've only finished 3 books in the month, which is kind of low for me. My goal is to read 7 books the rest of the year every month to meet my goal of 90 books, and I don't know if I'm going to make 7 books, but I guess if not, I'll just read more the next month, or I'll make it up somehow later on in the year. It's not a big deal, but I'm just I don't know what's going on with my reading this month. It's partially because it's hot, so when I get home, I don't want to think hard, so I watch Golden Girls instead of reading, and then also I think I've been kind of bleh about everything that's going on in the world. The fact that they're going to open up schools is really bumming me out because, there's no way they should be doing that. But anyway, let's just get into these books. The first 2 books I finished in July were from my work book club. This month in July, we were meant to read books that were by Texas authors or set in Texas, so I chose 2 books that were set in Texas. The first book that I finished this month was Valentine by Elizabeth Wetmore. This is set in 1976 in Odessa, Texas, which is a town out in West Texas where oil is the primary export. The whole town is based around oil, and it's also the neighboring town to Midland. Just in case you're not from Texas and you don't know Texas culture, the West Texas is primarily oil country. But anyway, this is following a young girl named Glory, and at the beginning of the book, Glory is attacked by a man that she was having a date with, and it's about how her the decision to prosecute the man. And Glory is a Hispanic girl, a 14-year-old girl, and the man is a white, fully grown man. And so it's about the decision to prosecute this white guy and how it affects the race tensions in the town. And it's primarily told through chapters of the different perspectives of different women, primarily Mary Rose, who is the woman that Glory goes to her house right after the attack and seeks sanctuary there. And then Glory lives on Larkspur Lane, and so we see the perspectives of her different neighbors. There's a woman named Corinne, who's recently a widow. There's a young girl named Deborah Ann, who is helping a guy that's hiding out in the drain pipe and how that affects her life. There's some chapters from Deborah Ann's mother, Jenny, who has run off in order to find a better life for herself. And it's primarily about female unhappiness and how the different forms that can show itself as. And it's a really, really interesting book. I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. I will say that I think a lot of my enjoyment came because I have personal experience with the Midland, Odessa area. My brother lives in Midland, and I've spent, a good amount of time out there. And actually, before I got the job I have now, I actually applied for a job out in Odessa, and I think I would have really liked living out there. I think it's because I've grown up in the suburbs of Dallas, and everything's so built up here, and then when you go out there, it's just you can see for miles, and the sky is blue and big, and it's just a really fun not fun, but a really cool landscape, and I really enjoyed being out there. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. I definitely recommend it. It's got strong female voices, and it's just a really interesting book. The next book that I finished for book club was The Evolution of Calpurnia Tate by Jacqueline Kelly, and this is set in 1899 in Fentress, Texas, which is a town about 50 miles south of Austen. It's a real city. I had looked it up on Google Maps, and this is following Calpurnia Tate, who is an 11-year-old girl. She's the middle child, and she's the only girl of 5 children, so she's got 4 brothers, and she really loves science. And this is a It's basically a series of vignettes about her life over the course of the year of 1899. And Calpurnia hangs out with her grandfather, who is also a scientist, and the two of them go out and explore and pick up plants and bugs and things from around her house. And over the course of the year, they discover a brand new species of plant. And it's about how they determined that the plant is a new plant, and they also send it off to the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. So it's very much about Calpurnia's science interests, but it's also about how, as an 11-year-old, she's sort of starting to become a young woman, and at this period, women are expected to be wives and mothers, and so her own mother is trying to teach her housekeeping and cooking and all this sort of stuff, and Calpurnia is like having a conflict between science and also housekeeping. And so it's just a year in her life. It's a really sweet story. This is a middle grade book, so just FYI, it's written for, elementary school people, but I found it really good. Reading this, actually, I'm not a big middle grade person, so I sort of, don't ever really bother listening to middle grade reviews, but this made me, really interested in reading, Nevermore, which everybody keeps talking about, because this was a really well-written middle grade, so if Nevermore is just this in terms of, writing, type capability, then I'd be really interested to check it out. But yeah, this is a really cute book, really easy to read, very interesting. It's not much, I will say, it's not much in the way of plot. It's just vignettes of her life over this year, focusing on science and also about her family. But it's still a really cute book, and I did really enjoy it. The most recent book that I finished was Emma by Jane Austen. I read this for the Jane Austen read-along, and this was my second time to read this. I had previously read it way back in middle school sometime, and I didn't really remember that much about it. So I listened to this predominantly on audiobook, which I am finding to be very helpful. I listened to Mansfield Park on audio in June and really enjoyed that. So this is, if you don't know, this is about Emma Woodhouse, and she is a wealthy young woman, and she thinks that she knows what's best for everybody, and she's particularly interested in matchmaking with her friends and family. And so we see her, and then shortly into the book, a young man named Frank Churchill comes to town, and we see how she starts to try to manipulate both Frank Churchill and her friend Harriet Smith. Harriet Smith is a lower class girl who is an illegitimate child, and so her prospects are not really not great, and so she's sort of Emma sort of is on this developing this improvement plan for Harriet. So it's about Emma's misadventures and her discovering that she doesn't really know that much about the world or about the people that she considers her friends. And then it's also, of course, this is a spoiler, but sorry, she discovers that her neighbor, Mr. Knightley, is actually the love of her life, and she discovers that through the potential, because she thinks she's going to lose him to somebody else. So it's just about Emma's transformation and her recognition that she doesn't have all the answers and that she shouldn't be meddling in people's lives. And I will say that because I remembered, the main points of what was going to happen, Emma just looked really foolish in this book. She obviously has no idea what's going on, which is dumb in itself, but then she's also really concerned about class, even though there's this couple, Nicole's, in the town who's new money, and so Emma's oh, I can't associate them, but then she hangs out with them all the time because everybody else is hanging out with them, and she doesn't want to miss out on the fun times. And I'm if your class, if you're talking about class only because you think that's important, but it's not actually affecting your life in any capacity, then what's the point? That just made me think about how dumb I think class, how they, the House of Lords and all that stupid stuff in Britain. Although I will admit, in America we do have a class problem as well, because the rich are becoming richer while everybody else is becoming poorer. But anyway, this was really good. Really liked it. Really glad to participate in Jane Austen July. Look at my pretty Penguin English Library copy. and I'm planning to read Sense and Sensibility in August for Austen August. Currently, I'm in the middle of 3 books. I'm reading Valiant Ambition by Nathaniel Philbrick on audiobook now that I've finished Emma. I meant to read this earlier in the month, around 4th of July, but I didn't get to it. This is going okay. It's kind of more like military-based than I was expecting. They're talking a lot about like minutia of battles, which I don't really care about, but it's okay. My book club book for my personal book club this month is Lamb, The Gospel According to Biff, Christ's Childhood Pal by Christopher Moore. And, okay, I just want to say, like, I'm not going to talk about it very much, but I have heard about this book, a lot because I'm a Christian and I've been in Christian circles my whole life. But, like, I always thought this book was told from the perspective of a lamb. Because, like, why is it called Lamb? I don't get it. I mean, I guess it's because Jesus is the son, the Lamb of God. But, like, okay, Biff is like a human person. So, if you're like me and you thought this was told by a sheep, it is not. Just FYI. This is going okay. It's not literally my kind of humor, but it's fine. I'm also sort of reading The Warmth of Other Suns by Isabel Wilkerson. I checked it out from the library, but I wasn't making very good progress on it, so I decided to take it back to the library and get my own copy, because I think maybe if I have like the paperback where I can, it'll be easier to read, I think that'll help me get through it quicker. But anyway, I'm enjoying it from what I've read so far. I just have put it down for a while, and I like to get back to picking it up once I get my own copy. So that's all I've been reading lately. I hope everybody else has been reading some great stuff and that you're doing okay with all the craziness going on. And I'll talk to you again soon. Bye!